I want everyone to see your class after that. Whole world, right?
Tomorrow we'll do the same thing.
The same time?
Yeah.
Very good. It's just perfect.
Because tomorrow is the actual disappearance day. And so today we'll read part, then tomorrow morning, I was just talking with Sita Lamataji before I came here. Maybe she'll come tomorrow, maybe not, it depends on her health. So if she comes, then she'll speak, and then I'll speak again tomorrow night. And if she doesn't come, then I'll speak again and again.
Сейчас мы немного почитаем, завтра также будет лекция, вечером еще немного почитаем. Я только что разговаривала с Италой Матажи. И будем надеяться, что она сможет завтра прийти, в зависимости от состояния ее здоровья. Тогда мы с ней вместе будем давать лекции завтра, а также в 4:15
So as ISKCON devotees, it's very hard for us to imagine there not being a Gaur Purnima festival.
Для нас, как преданных искон, сложно представить себе, что мы поедем на Гауру Пурниму.
But there was a time when there was no Gaur Purnima festival.
Но в свое время не было никакого фестиваля Гауру Пурнимы.
The first Gaur Purnima festival took place almost 30 years after Mahaprabhu departed.
Первая Гауру Пурнима произошла через 30 лет после того, как Махапрабху покинул.
The festival was the idea jointly of Narottam Das Thakur and Janava Mata.
Идея принадлежала совместно Нароттам дас Такуру и Джанаве Мате.
So for today's discussion, I sought Sitala's permission to read from her chapter in her book on the festival.
Поэтому к сегодняшнему дню я получила разрешение, чтобы читать множество эту главу фестиваля.
So, the small bamboo boat swiftly carried Narottam across the Padmavati River.
Маленькая бамбуковая лодочка нежно несла Нароттама сквозь Падмавати.
Reaching the shore, he stepped onto the bank and walked toward the town.
Когда она причалила к берегу, он сошел на берег и поднялся в воду.
At Kituri, he found that the news of his arrival had quickly spread throughout the entire town.
В Тхакуре он понял, что новости о его прибытии опередили его снова.
Crowds of residents gathered along both sides of the pass, chanting "Hari, Hari" as he walked towards the village.
Жители столпились и приветствовали его «Хари, Хари», когда он входил в деревню.
Narottam's mother and father jubilantly and with great anticipation ran forward and greeted him and touched his feet.
Его папа и мама с большой нежностью и любовью побежали и дотронулись до его стоп.
"Oh, Narottam, we're so relieved that you have come back," his mother said, breathless with anticipation. "Please, please, never leave again."
О, Нароттам, нам так полегчало, что наконец вернулся, сказала его мама, сбиваясь с дыханием. Пожалуйста, никогда больше не покидай нас.
The separation from you even another time would cause us to immediately die.
Еще одна разлука с тобой зачем для нас неминуема.
Narottam smiled gently at his mother and said, "Do not worry, Ma.
Нароттам ласково улыбнулся своей маме и сказал: «Ма, не беспокойся,
I will not go away again.
больше не буду.
I simply had to see the pastime places of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Мне просто нужно было увидеть места божественных людей после читания».
Now that I've done that, I will not give you, my mother, any more unhappiness. I will stay here.
Теперь, когда я это получил, я больше тебя не покину и не буду чинить тебя.
It is time for me to perfect my bhajan.
Теперь пришло время совершенствовать мой баджан.
Now, during this time, he had had a discussion with his cousin, his father's brother's, his cousin. So his cousin Santosh. Narottam was actually supposed to take over the kingdom.
У него был диалог с его дядей, Сантошем, папиным братом, получается. Вообще-то он должен был унаследовать царство.
But once he departed for Vrindavan, the responsibility of managing the kingdom after the retirement of Purushottam Dutt and Krishnananda Dutt fell to Purushottam Dutt's son, Santosh.
Но когда он уехал во Вриндаван, получается, там, его, в общем, ну, вот этому как раз дяде, да, пришлось сидеть за королевство, сыну дяди.
So when Narottam originally returned, this is his second return. He returned the first time, and then he went to Navadvipa, on Parikrama of Navadvipa, and was shown around by the different residents there. So in between those two, before he left, Santosh spoke with him about the idea of building a grand temple in Ketturi.
Вообще-то это был второй раз, когда он вернулся. Он уже до этого уезжал, вот это второй был раз, когда он в Навадвипу уехал. И между этими двумя поездками дядя говорил о том, что, говорил с ним о том, чтобы построить храм.
So all of Narottam's consciousness, all of his thoughts were now absorbed in how to prepare for this magnificent temple that was soon to be built. He thought how wonderful it would be to invite all of Mahaprabhu's associates from near and far for the opening of this temple. In his mind, excitement and anticipation began to grow as he plotted out how this could be accomplished. He also thought how this would be soothing because so many of these devotees were now barely alive with the pains of separation from Mahaprabhu.
Думал, как же их всех собрать, потому что после прочитания Махапрабху, получается, оставил этот мир, они все были в разных местах. Еле живые от разлуки. Еле живые от разлуки.
Am I doing too much at one spot? A little shorter bits.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. A little shorter.
It's just because of our English.
All right. Between the three of you, I'm sure
Yeah.
we'll get this worked out. So he began to think. He began to think that their mood of separation would be completely satisfied if we could have one Maha Sankirtan Yagna, just like they observed during the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's presence.
Он думал, что... Маша, давайте по переводчику, пожалуйста.
Ну а что переводить? Все хорошо получается.
Он думал, что нужно сделать одну большую ягу, такую, какие бывали во времена Махапрабху.
Narottam continued to reflect on the variations in the deviant philosophies that had developed since the time of Mahaprabhu's short passing.
Он думал, что же, какое же знание успели получить за то время, пока Махапрабху был здесь. Нормально, мы просто боимся переврать. Давай,
The three of you, in between the three, Shataratma and Russian.
Something to wrote it to translation English and Russian.
Наротам Тхакур переживал, что за такое короткое время, прошедшее с того момента, как Буран ушел, то что уже пошли очень много отклонений.
So thinking in this way, Narottam decided that this festival would address all of these different issues and bring great satisfaction to all the devotees.
Таким образом, он думал провести этот фестиваль для того, чтобы поднять все эти вопросы и одновременно с этим поставить радость всем преданным.
Now, the enthusiasm that Narottam had also washed over to Santosh Dutt, the king.
И тот энтузиазм, который был у Наротам Тхакура, он одновременно откликнулся в сердце царя Сантоши.
Just like in the news nowadays, if you go to Africa, maybe you get infected with this Ebola.
И, например, если в данный момент поедете в Африку, вы можете заразиться какой-то болезнью.
So Santosh became completely infected with the enthusiasm enthusiasm of Narottam Das Thakur. And King Santosh made a declaration. We should make this festival here like no other festival. It should be a grand experience for all the devotees. I will personally cover all expenses for this festival. Everything. This gives you an idea of how wealthy Santosh Datta was. So Santosh Datta began the construction of the temple, and the different details of organization were slowly developing. But Narottam had not heard in some long time any word from Srinivasacharya. Srinivas's expertise, well, actually, Srinivas was actually the oldest of the three. Srinivasacharya, Narottam Das Thakur, and Shamananda Pandit. Narottam and Shamananda were within a couple of years of each older, just like right at the same point. Srinivas was about 8, maybe 10 years older, a little more mature. There's different stories which we'll hear in the next day or two about that, how that manifested. But because of this, he was separated preaching, and Narottam hadn't heard from him in a very long time. Now, and each of the three of them had their expertise. Shamananda was a very good cook. Narottam was expert at Sankirtan. And Srinivasacharya was the Purohit. Puja guy. No, Srinivas. Right. All the proper rituals for establishing a temple and installing the deities and performing the fire jagas. This was Srinivas's expertise. He was known for all of this. So Narottam was thinking, if we don't get Srinivas involved at an early stage, this is going to be troublesome. As he was thinking in this way, a Brahmin came into the courtyard they did not recognize. My dear Narottam, I have just arrived from Yachigram, residence of Srinivas. Oh, the city. Yachigram. Yachigram. So Narottam became animated. Oh, and how is Srinivas? Have you heard from him? What's happening with him? So the Brahmin said, well, I have come to inform you that Srinivas has traveled to Vrindavan and is on his way returning, and he wants to send a letter to you to let you know what's happening in Vrindavan. So he set the messenger down, had some water brought for him, a nice seat for him, and they began to converse back and forth about some of the travels the messenger did know of Srinivas's activities. As the two of them are sitting there speaking about Srinivas, two messengers arrive with letters from Srinivas. You just see how Krishna is arranging, actually it's Yoga Maya, is arranging everything so nicely, bringing all the ingredients together right at the exact moment. So Narottam read the letter aloud for everyone to hear. The bearers of this letter are Sri Das and Gokulananda, the sons of Dvija Haridas. Sri Das and Gokulananda. Dvija Haridas, you will remember, is one of Mahaprabhu's most wonderful associates. At present, I am traveling and preaching. Yesterday, I left Kanchanagaria and started for Budari. I will stay there at Ramchandra Kaviraj's house in Budari for a few days longer. Since this is very close to Kettering, I hope that I can meet you soon, as I am very eager to see you again. Narottam said, "Oh, what a wonderful morning this has been." You can just imagine, he's in anxiety and anticipation, and then one messenger comes, and then the letter comes, and it tells that Srinivas is coming. Oh, such great joy. So the next morning, Narottam got into a boat and crossed the Padmavati River with a handful of disciples. Their intention was to go to the town of Budari, which was quite close, walking distance. And meet Srinivasacharya at the home of Ramchandra Kaviraj. So as they're approaching the village, coming up the path, they're greeted by two Vaishnavas who come out from Budari. And, I mean, you can imagine, it's not just like, oh, Hargo. No, they come forward, they put garlands on them, they fall at their feet, they offer prayers. We are the disciples of Srinivasacharya, and he has sent us to welcome you to Budari and bring you in to personally meet him. So they each took a hand of Narottam, one on each side, and entered into the city with him in this way. One of these two individuals was particularly bright-faced and effulgent. And Narottam felt himself being inexplicably unexplainably drawn to this personality. He thought, who is this person? Simply by taking my hand, I feel such fortune and satisfaction in his company. At this point, they entered into the compound of where Srinivasacharya was staying. There, Narottam caught the sight of his longtime friend, who he had not seen in so many years. At that moment, Srinivas looked up and also saw, there's Narottam. It's like in the movies. ran towards each other in great anticipation and excitement of seeing each other. Each trying to offer obeisances before the other, each embracing the other, each shedding tears of happiness to see the other. Srinivas was a little older though and forcefully pulled Narottam up and embraced him tightly to his chest. After such a very long number of years, finally the two of them were reunited together. They sat down in the midst of so many of their disciples and immediately began to talk of all their different pastimes with each other, all the different activities they had performed while in the absence of each other. Srinivas explained how he had had copied all of the books of the Goswamis and had seen them distributed. And how at the request of Narahari Thakur, he had accepted a wife and gotten married and settled in Yajigram. Then he explained after the disappearance of Narahari Thakur and Gadadhar Das that he immediately felt the need to return to Vrindavan, and that's where he had just come back from. It's explained that as Srinivasacharya began to speak about everything going on in Vrindavan, which was like hearing about his home to Narottam, that he was completely absorbed, Narottam was completely absorbed with rapt attention in every word as Srinivas described all the different personalities, who was still there, who had passed away, who had accomplished what. As Srinivas described Govardhan Hill and Radhakund and Shamakund, Narottam Das Thakur once again felt the ecstasy of being in this place and seeing these places all over again as if it were for the first time. It was even more amazing for Narottam to hear how Srinivas had already begun the process of copying the books of the Goswamis and seeing them distributed to other parts of Bengal. Now, Narottam's curiosity is answered. Srinivas Thakur turns to the devotee to his side, that bright-faced, effulgent devotee that had such an impact on Narottam, and introduces him. This is my disciple, Ramchandra Kaviraj. He continued with me to Vrindavan and was my constant companion through all the different forests of Vrindavan. The Vrindavan Goswamis were so satisfied with his erudite and peaceful nature, they bestowed upon him the title Kaviraj. As a matter of fact, the house I'm staying in belongs to he and his brother Govinda Kaviraj. Ramchandra Kaviraj had practically not taken his eyes off of Narottam while they were sitting there talking. very smilingly and with great love of his heart, he now spoke. The Goswamis of Vrindavan, they remember you, Narottam, with great affection and joy. Lokanath Goswami is still residing, although very elderly, and sends you all his blessings. As Narottam heard of the blessings from his own spiritual master, who he had not seen in so long, his heart filled with great happiness and joy, tears, and gratitude all mixed in one emotion. Narottam now composed himself. And he started to share with Srinivasacharya his own travels throughout Bengal and the pastime places of Mahaprabhu and the preaching in Katuri. Then he began to explain about the festival and their grand plans for the temple and installation of deities and the observance of Mahaprabhu's birthday. You know, sometimes you'll have a friendship, and that friend will know how to offer their services to you without you asking necessarily. So Srinivasa's voice, it showed a bit of enthusiasm mixed with skepticism. How will you organize such a grand festival? Having personally presided over many utsavas such as this, I know what's involved, and this is a great task for you. Are you sure you can manage by yourself? You might need some help. You don't have any experience in this regard. Maybe you'll look for someone to help you with this. Narottam then said, "It is true, I have no capacity to organize a festival such as this on my own abilities. But with your help, I am sure it will come to pass without any difficulties." Srinivas smiled and said, "Well, of course, I'm more than happy to help you. But how will it be possible to get all of the associates of Mahaprabhu to come? Many of them are in deep states of separation. Many of them live some distance away. How will they all travel here from residences scattered all over Bengal?" And even if you get them to come, who will cook for all of them? What about their residences? How will all of this be taken care of? So then Narottam explained Santosh's offer and arrangement for taking care of hosting everyone. And Narottam explained, "I have many men, many disciples that will go all throughout the country taking the invitations. And this will not be a difficulty. We can get everyone here, and with your expertise, the festival will be a grand success." Srinivasacharya laughed. "All right, your enthusiasm is irresistible. I'm in." All right, let's get together and make up the list of who we'll invite.
Давай сядем, составим список приглашенных.
Very, very long list of exalted souls from Chaitanya Lila.
Это был очень-очень длинный лист тех возвышенных душ из читания Лилы.
Janava Mata,
Жанова Мата,
Virabhadra Prabhu, all the 6 sons of Advaita Acharya,
все 6 сыновей Адвайта Ачарьи,
the brothers of Srinivas Acharya,
братья Шринивас Ачарьи.
Hridoy Chaitanya, and this was just a handful.
И как бы это лишь малая часть.
Each invitation was sent person, like you do invitations for Janmashtami in your temple, you print 5,000, stick them in an envelope and send them out.
И каждое приглашение было разослано лично, а не как, например, на Джанмаштами, до 5000 приглашений печатают и всем просто в конвертике рассылают.
Each invitation was personalized to that particular devotee, to their particular qualities in perfect rhyming Sanskrit prose.
И каждое приглашение, оно было настолько индивидуальным, что одновременно с этим оно обращалось мало того, что к личности, но еще и к его качествам. То есть оно было совершенно лично создано, и оно было написано на санскрите.
And the invitations hinted at a special surprise. Hinted. Yeah, kind of.
И каждое это приглашение еще имело в себе как маленький сюрприз.
Narottam promised if all of you that are invited come, I'm sure Mahaprabhu himself will personally appear.
И он пообещал всем приглашенным, что если они все соберутся, то наверняка Махапрабху лично будет присутствовать на этом фестивале.
So as these preparations were put into place, the evening came to be, and Srinivas and Narottam set everything aside and started kirtan.
И когда все приготовления были сделаны, наступил уже вечер, Шринивас и Наротам отложили все дела и приступили к вечернему киртану.
And this was no ordinary kirtan.
Это был необычный киртан.
And this will be no ordinary kirtan.
Сейчас это уже будет необычный киртан.
Narottam's kirtan people were the most expert.
И последователи Наротама, они были очень обучены киртаном.
Madhava's kirtan people are the most expert.
И те, кто играет с Мадхавом, они тоже эксперты.
The purpose of Srinivas and Narottam putting aside the day's work, however transcendental it was, to take part in kirtan was to refuel their spiritual focus.
И как бы чем занимался Шринивас Ачарья и Тхакур, это уже были трансцендентная деятельность, но они все это откладывали и приступали к киртану для того, чтобы обновить эмоции, которые внутри, наполнить себя.
So, however transcendentally spiritual our day has been, now we have that time to put that aside and recharge ourselves with the holy name under the kirtan of Madhava.
Несмотря на то, насколько трансцендентной деятельностью наполнен наш день, мы должны отложить все в сторону и наполнить себя духовными эмоциями благодаря киртану.
And you know what Srinivas Acharya said to Narottam the next morning?
И вы знаете, что Шринивас Ачарья сказал Наротаму в Тхакуру на следующее утро?
We'll find out tomorrow.
Узнаем завтра.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, ladies. The translating trio.
And she's just the best. She knows all complicated words.